Once in a blue moon, you are going to encounter the Z or Z index. And because you will do it so rarely, you may not know where it is, and you may not even have known that you can actually use this function. Welcome to Back to Basics with JP here at our Brizy channel. What I'm about to show you is going to apply for everything Brizy Cloud and Brizy WordPress. Matter of fact, it's going to apply to every page builder that you've ever used. I have these three images here, and you can see that I have created overlaps by using negative margins. If you want to know how to do that, check out the Back to Basics margins video to find out how you can create these overlaps. What I did is I started over here by bringing in three images, and I've placed each of them in a separate column, and then I've increased the margin. I'm going to show you very soon how to do that, and then I created this overlap. What you're going to see though is that once I do that, it's not going to look like this. We have the big picture in the back, and then we have the image on the left and on the right to the front. Now that we've mentioned this Z index, where exactly is the Z index? And you're going to find the Z index for any element on your page, including blocks. To do that, you go to any element, click, select it, go to the styling, and then you will see styling at the top here. Click Advanced, and the first option you get is Z index with a slider currently set to 0. Before I tell you what it does, let's have a look first at how we're going to turn this into this. I'll select the image, and I can also work with the columns, but in this case, I'll just go with the image, go to styling, and then under styling basic, we go to margins, and we select and couple all the sides so that we can work with them uniformly. Now grab the slider and drag it into the negatives. And basically what we are doing is extending the border, the space in which this element operates. And let's drag it a little bit more, around -60. Click out and let's have a look at what we have here. Image on the left is in the back. Then image next to that, this one, is on top of that. And then the image on the right is on top of all of them. And that is what the Z index is all about. It is the stacking order. Think of the Z index as a stack of papers on top of each other. It starts at the bottom, and as we put more papers on top of them, they layer each other. And that's how it's always going to work whenever you have overlap images or elements within any builder, is that from top and then left to right, they're going to stack on top of each other. Because that is the default setting of how elements are stacked within the canvas, you will find that builders will always have this as a 0. So if I go to this image, to the settings, styling, and advanced, all of them, doesn't matter which one I choose and look at, you're going to see they're all set to 0. They will layer each other from top down and left to right. Now what I want though is I want this one to be on top of the image in the middle, like I've done here. Here is the visual cue again. How am I going to do that? What I want to instruct this picture to do is to be stacked on top of this. To do that, I want to assign it a higher value than the image I want at the bottom. The image at the top, always a higher value. The image at the bottom, the lowest value. Because this image is 0, all I need to do with this image is go to the settings, styling, advanced, give it a 1 value. And I'm going to select the value box and just type in 1, and look at that, the image pops forward. But what you're going to find often is that most of us don't really care about the 1. It can be any value higher than the one you are trying to overlap. Remember that this image is 0. That means that this image can be any value higher than 0. If I grab the slider, I drag it up, and see it goes all the way to 100, and I'm pretty sure I can probably type in more, but you're never going to go that high. Never ever. The image will overlap the one next to it because it's higher than that value. If I drag it down to 0, it pops back behind the image in the middle. Let's say I want the image in the middle to overlap the image on the right. So let's go to the image in the middle. And we know the one on the right is by default 0. So for the image in the middle, let's put it on 1. And let me type in 1 because it's very difficult to drag one value. And now it overlaps that image. Now if I want to have the image on the left overlap the image in the middle, I have to have a value higher than 1. That means minimum 2 or higher. I can type in 2 and it will overlap, or I can just drag it to any value higher than 2 and it will overlap. With this overlap feature combined with negative margins, you can create really nice little collages of images on your page. Beautiful eye candy, especially for a fashion website. Let's just do this one the way I did this one up here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to undo, Control Z a few times, Command Z to undo. Just click out here and we undo until this image overlaps. And then we go back to this one and I'm going to put that on anything higher than 0. Then I'll go to the column of the image on the left and I tried to find it, but because we have this overlap now, the moment I try to access the column which this image is placed in, you will see that my bounding box disappears. Can be very frustrating. And here is a major important shortcut. Click on the image and then hit Escape on your keyboard. And that's going to go one container level higher, which is the column. I press Escape and there we access the column settings. I'll go to the settings and then here where I have the content, I'm going to align my content to the bottom, create this kind of stagger effect. Very important point before we exit this tutorial, and that is responsive design. Z-index is set globally for your various responsive designs. And that means whether you are going into tablet or mobile, the Z-index will apply. So I set this one to 1, this picture to 1, and these to 0. If I go into tablet, that will be there. In fact, you won't be even able to change that. Let's go into our tablet view. You access that by going to the selector here on the left in the sidebar and select tablet. If I select this image in the sidebar on the right, you will see under styling, there is no option here for your Z-index. As if you are trying to do something different here, a different overlap, it's not going to work. If you wanted to create something very different here with different layers of overlaps, you'll probably have to clone, duplicate the block, and apply that and then set different ways to disable it. In this case, I'm going to select the column just to show you that we can also use negative margins on a column basis and get the same effect. I'll select the column, link the margins, and I'll drag it into a negative value until it looks right for me. And you can see that these two images are automatically on top of the one in the middle. In fact, you will see even for the column for this one, I'll click and press Escape to level up. I go to the settings and it's set to the bottom. Here I have that responsive control. So if I wanted to change the order of this image, which I don't, I like the balance it is giving by putting it at the bottom, then I could have done that, but I'm not going to do that. Same is going to be true for mobile. Just remember when we go to mobile, images are stacked, and that's usually the way to go for mobile. It just looks better with these 3 that I have here. That is the Z-index in a nutshell and everything about the Z-index that you'll ever have to know when you are designing. Just remember it can also be done on a block basis. So if you have anything overlapped on a block basis and you have to cut something off with an overlay, you go to the block settings, styling, and then under styling advanced, you will find the Z-index there as well for the block. Something you will rarely use, but I'm pretty sure at one point in your life, if you design websites regularly, you're going to run into it. In fact, if you have images that you are sitting next to each other like this one, I actually recommend play around with a little bit of negative margins, make them bigger, change them around, and use your layering to bring them to different layers within the stack. For more tutorials to take you back to basics and how to build websites, remember to subscribe, give this video a like, and visit us at brizy.io.